Ask the Dean, episode 70, with my amazing friends from the Mapped team. Verinia Granum, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much.
And Rachel Grubbs, co-founder of Mapped. How are you, my friend?
I'm great, thank you.
I'm loving the coordination with our premedshirts.com. Rachel and I wearing collaboration, not competition, not on purpose, together. And Verinia wearing the Premed Element shirts, 528 and 24/7, 365 there as well. We are the Mapped team. My name is Dr. Ryan Gray. If you haven't heard of me before, where have you been all of my life? I've been hanging out here on the internet for 9 years, providing tons of free content for you to get into medical school. That's the ultimate goal here. And last year, Rachel and I created mapped.com, which initially started out as a software product, which still is a software product that you can go sign up for free now and have a free account forever. We do have paid features built into Mapped as well. But we also have one-on-one advising. And so Verinia is an advisor. Rachel and I are both advisors, as well as Dr. Scott Wright, who is a grandparent as of yesterday. So we're not sure he's going to join us today. He's hanging out with the babies appropriately. So for all of you watching this on replay, leave a note either at mapped.tv or premed.tv. We won't distinguish either one. Leave a comment, a question that you have or a good takeaway from this episode. And we're going to be giving away a free year access to Mapped, as well as one of our newest features, which is chat advising with one of the four of us inside of Mapped. So I don't even know the value of that, Rachel. What is that? It's over $300, I think.
Yeah, $329.99 for Mapped and in the chat.
Yeah, the value is like thousands of dollars, but the cost is $329. So anyway, the goal here for Ask the Dean is to answer questions. You ask them, we answer them. And if you're watching this on Instagram, hello on Instagram. But we're taking questions. Just the platform that we use brings in questions from YouTube. So go over to premed.tv or mapped.tv and ask your questions there. And look who is here, Grandpa, Dr. Scott Wright.
Hello. I'm doing well. Sorry I'm late.
You are okay. You are excused. We thought you might be hanging out with babies, so.
Oh, I wish I was.
Well, thank you for showing up and gracing us with your presence and your knowledge. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And with it, hopefully, Grandpa wisdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. Let's go ahead and jump into the first question.
All right.
When should you be asking for letters of recommendations if you apply next cycle? And should we use interfolio? Verinia, what do you think?
So I'm assuming, meaning like 2022. You want to start asking for those probably the beginning of the spring semester, January, February. Hopefully you've built up a relationship with your recommenders where it's not suddenly coming out of the blue.
Surprise.
So, yeah. So yeah, that would be an ideal timeline, the beginning of the spring semester.
Yeah. Why then and not now?
It's a little early now. You want to have a recommender who can speak to your current activities as well as, who you've been over the years. But they're sort of just going to sit there kind of dated, right? And they're probably not going to have as much weight as, let's say, someone who's writing a more recent letter.
Yeah. So a little gamesmanship with the application cycle where you just... Ideally, your letters of recommendations are dated the year that you apply. Now, could you play a game and have your letter writer write it now and date it in the future? You could play that game if you wanted to. Nobody's going to stop you, but that's the ideal scenario. And then interfolio is great, right? You would have to use interfolio if you're going to do something before the application cycle opens up. And that's what we always recommend is start asking kind of January, February. and give your letter writer in an interfolio link. If you go to interfolio.com, you create an account. It's free to create the account. It costs money to transmit the letters later on to the application services. But your letter writer will get an email saying, hey, Johnny has requested a letter from you. Here are the instructions to upload it. When it comes to uploading directly to the application services, for some reason, and this is just, there's no technical reason why they can't do this, but they just have put in this limit. All 3 application services, you can't upload letters unless you have an active application open for that cycle. So you could have an application open for, let's say, the 2022 cycle, meaning it opened in 2021, with letters in there. If you're going to apply in 2022 for 2023, you're going to have to re-upload those letters to your new application cycle account, or whatever language they use there. So just some weirdness that the application services have.
Yep.
All right.
My girlfriend and I will be applying next cycle. Woohoo! I wish there was couples matching for med school. That'd be cool. And we're trying to go to the same med school. If one of us gets an acceptance before the others, how long could we hold out before the other hears back?
This question asker also wishes there was couple matching.
Yeah. Scott, did you deal with students at all ever applying as a couple, going, my significant other got in and I want to come to your school too? And you're like, sorry, buddy, your stats are terrible.
Yeah, that would happen on occasion. And, there's nothing we can do about that. It is what it is. And if the other person of the couple didn't get in, then they would have to go to the school where they did get in, and then hope to transfer at the 3rd year into the clinical, which is the only transfer point in med schools. Some med schools don't transfer in at all. Yep. Other med schools do transfer in, but only after the 2nd year into the clinical years, assuming that you did well in your in all the preclinical stuff and passed step 1. So there's some hurdles that you have to get over.
Yeah, I had a couple once. Both of them were music people. They had no intentions of going to medical school. They met in their masters of like music course study, and they both fell in love with how music affected people and people's health. They would play music at an Alzheimer's home, and it would just change the people while they were playing music. And they both fell in love with medicine. They applied to medical school together. One of them got an acceptance. I believe it was to Wake Forest. I'm pretty sure it's to Wake Forest, because the reason I remember that is Wake Forest and the medical schools in that area, they have a med student band or a medical band. And so they were really interested in going to that school because of the orchestra kind of feature of the medical school. The woman got in, and the guy, I don't know if they were husband at the time. I think they were fiancés. They were engaged. The guy emailed the school and said, my fiance was just accepted. I would love to obviously go to the same school as her. Is it possible to have my application reviewed again, or reviewed, whatever language he used? He FedExed a letter, a physical letter to the school, overnighted it to them. He had an interview invite later that week, and ultimately an acceptance. Now, he didn't get in because his fiance got into school. He got in on his own merits, and he was just lucky enough and advocated for himself just enough that the school was like, yeah, I'll give you another look. Yeah, your application is good enough. Let's invite you in and see how it looks. So
yeah, I think that's a great story. It's that is not typical.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so let's get back to the heart of Ben's question, right? So Ben is saying, if one of us gets an acceptance before the others, how long do we hold out, right? So what do you recommend to them in terms of timing? So they're not talking about asking med schools for consideration. They're just talking about coordinating amongst themselves as a couple.
So
Well,
I don't really understand the question. How long could we hold out before the other hears back? Hold
so
out for what
so
is my
let's
question.
say Ben's girlfriend gets into one
X
med
school.
school.
Mm-hmm.
Ben gets into another med school. They both know in October they need to start making plans. Ben's med school is in another state. Should he start making plans in November, December, January, February? When is the latest potentially that Ben may hear that he gets in at his girlfriend's school?
The day before classes begin.
Exactly, right? And that's the answer. And it's a terrible situation to put yourself in. You have to prepare to go to whatever school you've got into. If you got into multiple schools, to the best school that you got into. And if
Right.
it's not the same school as your girlfriend, then that just is. And if the backup plan is the day before school starts, you hear that you got into her school, be prepared to move very quickly.
Yep.
Sorry,
This is
Ben.
true. Yeah. Sorry
Save-
to be the bearer of bad news,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the way it is.
Have some extra cash on hand for that
Yeah.
quick move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
What are some good resources and websites to apply to scholarships and grants outside of your medical school institution? So great website. Write it down. GOOGLE.com. You just type in scholarships for medical school is probably the best place to go.
Yeah. Yep.
We don't keep a list. Maybe we should build that into Mapped at some point and have a
But
database of all the good scholarships.
But I will say that's why med schools have financial aid offices. It's not just to dole out federal funds. It's to help you find other resources and stuff like that. So first and foremost, to the med school where you get an acceptance, go directly to their financial aid office and start a conversation with them about what is available and what I'm eligible for, and et cetera. That's why they're there.
Yeah. All right. Someone's fan just kicked on loud.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Good morning. I had a question on how can I move forward being pre-med with an IA, so an institutional action for those not in the know. I'm going into my second year. Any advice is appreciated. So the key part of that statement is it sounds like this happened as a freshman, right? Or a first year student. And we know for the most part, time heals all wounds, right? Scott, for UT Southwestern, where you were former director of admissions, how were institutional actions dealt with? Was that an automatic going into the trash can, or was it a case-by-case basis? We're going to look at what happened, how the student reflected on it, when it was, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a case-by-case evaluation. We would typically ask the student, the applicant, to write a letter to us explaining in detail exactly what happened, what they learned, get into a lot more detail than they did in the application. We would want to know exactly when it happened, if there were supporting documents that from the institution that were included in their file. We would want to know from if it was a faculty member that was involved, from that faculty member, etc. So we would look case by case. What actually happened? When did it happen? What was the severity of the event? We have a lot of students that come in with minor in possession or, public intoxication. These are fairly common. And I would say in those cases, particularly if they're early on in their college experience, that it wasn't a big deal. It was not a big problem, particularly if they seem to have learned their lesson and had reflected on it and really understood the severity of what it could have meant had it been a worse situation.
Yeah, that reflecting is so key. And this isn't about our question asker because hers is worded completely neutrally. But we definitely internally all had questions. People come to us talking about IAs with a lot of caveats. I was accused of cheating twice and it wasn't my fault. My TA was against me. That kind of talk, I mean, even just to a private mentor is sending the signal that you haven't reflected.
Right. Right.
Are people ever accused falsely of things? Yeah. But you still have to think about how are you going to talk about it in a way that shows growth.
Yeah.
And I think it goes without saying too, but just, don't do it again.
Yeah.
Don't do it again. Right.
You're early
Good
enough
point.
in your college career. Yeah.
Fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice, shame on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Elizabeth asks, I'm an optometrist tech. I work with patients, but I'm concerned it won't count as clinical hours. I'm also a caregiver to my mom who is blind, diabetic, has end-stage renal disease. Should I consider other clinical experiences? So, optometry tech, definitely clinical experience, right? It's just not in a typical medical field, but there are lots of pre-meds out there who are optometry techs. What's the downfall, Verinia, when we talk to a student who has a far majority of their time in a field that is a little bit on the fringe of medicine? And optometry is pretty close to medicine, right? Ophthalmology, optometry, very, very close to each other. But very similar situations we have all the time. Someone who works in a chiropractic office, or maybe as a physical therapy assistant or aide. What are your thoughts when we see the majority of their hours in that arena?
I don't see that as a downfall necessarily. I think I'd advise the student to maybe just shadow some other specialties, since you've only had experiences in those very specific areas in that specific environment. Try to just get an opportunity to see other specialties, other areas of medicine. But it's, at the end of the day, it's still experience. You're still working with patients. You're still getting to, obviously, what the ins and outs are of the medical field. So that's what I would try to do.
Nice. Any thoughts, Scott?
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I think, I think always with every applicant, having a diverse set of experiences is a good thing. And I completely agree with Verinia, and particularly with the issue with her caregiver to her mother. I think this is very clearly a clinical part of what she's doing, but I think you want to match that with maybe not as much clinical experiences, but with some shadowing opportunities would be a good idea.
Yep. So optometry tech, clinical experience, being a caregiver to your mom, clinical experience. Make sure you're getting that shadowing too.
Yep.
Stephen asks, do I need a postbac or SMP? Cumulative GPA 3.41. And I loved how he gave us the story behind those numbers.
Yes.
Stephen's been watching a while, hopefully. 29293737. Great upward trend there.
Yep.
Science GPA 325 with a 25293737. Strong upward trend, and a Texas resident.
Oh, good.
Yeehaw, as they say.
Right. Well, Stephen, I applaud the obvious shift in your GPA and your performance in your undergraduate experience. I mean, what the medical schools are going to see is a very clear demarcation between your first 2 years and your last 2 years. So this is a great example for all of our students of a trend that really shows the medical schools that you can do the work, and that you figured it out and you've really turned things around.
Yep.
Now, but to the question of do you need a postbac or SMP, which is a special master's program, I think that's a little unclear. I think that there's a bigger picture here that we don't see just from the numbers. Obviously, we don't know your MCAT score as well. We don't know kind of what your clinical experiences are, your volunteerism, things like that. So it's a little bit difficult to say, but strictly on the basis of the information that you provided here in your academics, I would say I would probably try to at least maybe get a year of postbac courses under your belt while you're doing the clinical stuff, if you don't have strong clinical and volunteer activities. But I would not be hesitant to apply with that kind of record, assuming that the other things kind of fall in line.
Yeah. Love it. The response that I always give students in this situation when they're asking about SMP or postbac, I'm like, you basically did what an SMP or postbac is geared for when you need to improve your GPA and show that you're academically capable. You treated your 3rd and 4th year of undergrad as your postbac or SMP.
Yep. Good point. Excellent point.
So great job.
Yep. Long-time listener has absorbed good insights.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And I would just hasten to add, Stephen, if you have any other questions, feel free to email me, scott@map.com. And being a Texas resident, there are some other things that I could add to that offline, but feel free to email me and hit me up, and we can chat a bit on via email.
Oh, look at you, just giving favoritism to Texas.
Oh, yeah, you know.
It's very statist of you. I really failed my MCAT. Okay, no more laughing. 480, I just got my score back. I feel really bad. I don't know what to do. I have ADHD, and I always had issues with taking tests like this. I have a 3.6 science GPA from 4-year university. All right. First of all, Rachel, what's for step 1?
Yeah. I love that everybody's like, yeah. So I'm real sorry. I am sure you are feeling just super upset. So yeah, first step is take a breath, try not to beat yourself up. This is a really hard exam. And one of the things that I try to help people remember, regardless of where they score on the MCAT, is doing average or even below average on the MCAT, you're probably still scholastically way more advanced than many people, right? 3.6 science GPA from a 4-year university. This is a test for a pretty elite section. So doing poorly on the test does not mean that you're dumb. It doesn't mean that you'll always be bad at tests. It does sound like you had said you have some test taking hurdles, but those are surmountable. What you didn't say is how you did on practice exams. And often when I see people score in the high 470s or the low 480s, and again, I don't know you, but often what that means is they have so much fear of the test that they did not take practice exams. Now, I don't know if that's the case for you. Maybe you took a bunch of practice tests and you were scoring north of 500. But the reason I'm bringing that up is it's 2 separate conversations. One is, if you didn't take any tests, then you already know that's what went wrong. You didn't study the way you're meant to study, which is content review, practicing your timing, and working on full-length exams and reviews, right? If you took several full-length exams under perfect time conditions, starting at the same time of day, with the mask on, fully clothed with shoes on, really trying to replicate that test center experience, and you were doing significantly better than this 480, then it might not be about how you studied. It might be about test day. So after you've taken a beat, that's the next step, is do some reflection. Obviously, if you still have dreams of being a physician, which I hope you do, then you're going to have to retake, and you need to seriously reflect on what you can do differently. If you haven't already, go check out Blueprint MCAT. They have a free study bundle that's like a half-length diagnostic, a full-length diagnostic. I think there's some flashcards in there. They're adding free stuff. There's like that package of free things gets bigger and bigger all the time. And they have a study planner tool in there. So I would definitely go check all that out. And that might help you do a little reflecting and thinking about, it's late September today as we're filming this, as we're streaming it live. So if you're aiming for the January or March exam, then you have some time to really map out a new study schedule. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Big Bad Bear. If you had to list the 3 most important attributes of a good applicant, what would they be? Scott, you name one.
Okay. Now?
Yeah, name one.
Okay. I would say humble.
Verinia, one.
Resilient.
Rachel.
Empathetic.
There you go.
Mhm.
There you go. It's funny. Students always add this as like at the end of an interview. Typically, there's a time where the interviewer will ask you if you have any questions, and very often students will ask, "Well, what traits make a good student here?" And I tell them, I'm like, it's not a very good question, because what if they name everything and you're like, oh crap, that's not me.
This makes me think of recently our friend from Temple University. I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on his
Caleb.
name. Yes,
Caleb.
Caleb.
Mhm.
He posted
His little
or
Post-it.
his little post-it, and I actually
Yes.
kept a screenshot because
Yep.
I love it.
Yes.
Can I just quickly read what they are?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
This is according to Caleb from Temple University. So the potential. This is what kind of comprises a good application, so to speak, but also speaks to the qualities that they're looking for. So potential, patterns, personal story, passion, professionalism, and persistence. Right. So that passion, the professionalism, the persistence, the potential, these are all words that you can use to describe a good candidate.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, I also was. I'm gonna share.
Oh, thank you.
I was also really tickled by Caleb's. He made a tweet. I think he put it on several rounds of social.
Mhm.
Caleb is the director of the postbaccalaureate program at Temple. So, I mean, I do think this question from Big Bad Bear is a great question. It's highly subjective, but Caleb keeps this little note on his desk to help
That's a
him
great
remember
note,
when
yeah.
he's screening
Mhm.
applicants for his postbac program.
Yeah.
So you're not always going to get the same answer, but I think this is, you can tell that's a well-loved Post-it. It's been there a while.
And a great use of alliteration.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And Caleb is sometimes watching. I don't know if he's watching today, but hi, Caleb. Thanks.
Hey, shout out to
Yeah.
Caleb.
Thanks for this. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's move on.
Destiny asks, where should you be getting your letters of recommendations from? Does it matter the breakup or makeup, rather? Professors, doctors, supervisors. So this is one of the hardest questions to answer, as is a lot of the questions that students ask, because it just depends on the medical school. Right? This is one of the non-standard parts of the application process, where each medical school has their own requirements. So start building a list of medical schools you may be interested in going to, and research what letters of recommendations they require.
Yeah. But I would say, generally speaking, you can pretty much count on needing, particularly if you're a current undergrad or recently out of undergrad, you're going to need at least 2 science professors. I mean, that's going to pretty much cover a lot of medical schools. And then outside of that, you add in, a doctor that you've shadowed or worked for, a supervisor at work. You can add that in there. But 2 science professors, really important, and then a mix of others. I agree, though, with Ryan that you really have to do your research on that. But generally speaking, I think that's a pretty good yardstick.
Mm-hmm. It is. Dan asks, when should I send an update letter to schools that accept them? My updates are a new clinical experience, in-person shadowing, and new volunteering activity. Are these significant to update schools? So good question. I love that Dan asked or gave the small little preface there of to schools that accept them.
Yes.
Right? Because not every medical school accepts updates. Scott, what do you think about this question?
I would say, geez, that's kind of difficult to say, but I would say, clearly after you've interviewed, I think now you could do it before you interview, but I think before the interview, it's a little bit dicey, and because there's so many students and so many applications and stuff like that. So I would say, if you haven't heard anything by Thanksgiving, In terms of an interview, sending an update letter would be, potentially a good idea. But then after you've interviewed, if you haven't gotten acceptance, then I would say maybe into the spring, maybe March or so, particularly if you're on the waiting list or an alternate list of some type.
Yep. Nice. All righty. So let's chat about Mapped for a second. We're about halfway through. And one of the things that we mentioned at the very beginning is if you're watching this in replay, leave a comment, a reflection, a question in the YouTube comments, whether it's on the premed.tv or mapped.tv replay of this. And we're going to pick a person that we choose kind of at random who has an insightful question or comment. We'll pick that person to get a free year access to Mapped, as well as our chat feature where you can chat with one of us inside of Mapped. So we call it kind of chat advising inside of Mapped. You'll get access to that. It's over $325 of value there. Paulina asked a question earlier about her institutional action. Paulina, if you're still watching this, we'd love to give you as well a free year access to Mapped and chat advising. So just reach out to us at info@mapped.com. So Rachel, you're showing Mapped here. Why don't you go ahead and talk about it for a second?
Okay, I've got some mowers not too far outside my window, so if it gets real bad, I'll mute and someone can take over.
All right.
All right, let me zoom in a little here. So the really exciting thing to tell you guys about Mapped is this tool has been so popular that we have decided to make a completely free level. So this is a paid service, but over and over, you guys tell us that the thing that you really love is this GPA calculator. And we already had a free GPA calculator over on med school headquarters. So we've made this version with the pretty graphs free. So anyone who is pre-med, I think, should take advantage of this. Create your free account. And what you can do is enter all of the courses that you've taken. Your GPA for AMCAS, for ACOMAS, for Texas will not be the same as what your transcripts say, even if you went to just one school for 4 nice, neat years, but particularly if you did any transferring, did any community college work, if you stopped and started, attended multiple schools, it's going to get really complex. I was just working with one of a grad student that we know that we work closely with on social media, and we found a really obscure little reason that her GPA was different by about 1/10. And it took a lot of pouring to find the thing because sometimes it's not obvious. But it was accurate, right? Like her school gave her a 3.7 and AMCAS says it was a 3.6. So just it's different. So definitely take advantage of that. Make sure that you're using this calculator so that you know before you apply exactly what your the med schools are going to see your GPA as. But then even better, this is really something to help you map out all of your pre-med, pre-PA process. So we've got a roadmap that if you tell us when you intend to start school, we're going to walk you through what you should be doing each year. As you get closer to applying, it's going to show you kind of things to do by month. So when to prep for the MCAT, when to take it, when to get those letters of rec. That was a question today. Working on your application all the way down to white coat ceremony. So it's going to give you kind of an overview timeline. And then here in resources, in addition to these weekly sessions where you can check in with us and ask questions, the most common questions we get, we've got articles and videos here. So, one of the questions we get a lot is, well, how do I choose my school list? Well, Dr. Gray's made 3 different videos about that. So they're all right here for you. So, this is information that's available for free on the internet anyway, but we've kind of aggregated it for you. We've also got this amazing feedback tool where, and I would say this is the heart and soul of Mapped, based on the information you put in about your courses, your activities, your test scores, we're going to run some rubrics and give you feedback. So it's not one-on-one advising, but it's pretty high value. You're getting feedback from us based on the information you put in your app. I could go on and on. There are lots of tabs I didn't touch, but a lot of cool things here in Mapped.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff there. So go to mapped.com, click on the Get Started button to go register for an account. You'll get, let's give the coupon code for 30 days of a free trial.
Yeah.
It's 30 days free. You'll get a free trial of all of the goodies. And then after that 30 days, you no longer will not have access to Mapped, which has historically been what happens after that 30 days. But now you'll go down to the free tier where you can still track your GPA, enter courses, and make sure that your GPA is tracking well.
That's awesome.
So that's Mapped.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And Paulina is still here. So she said, thank you, Dr. Gray. So Paulina, just shoot us an email, info@map.com.
Yay. Yay,
So that's
Paulina.
one winner. And then we said it at the top, but just as a reminder, because we've seen some new viewers since then, we're going to draw a second winner from people who watch the replay. So keep commenting because there's one more chance.
Yep.
Mhm.
Awesome. Back to questions. The good stuff.
The good stuff.
Sarah asks, is having an MRI tech aide job as the bulk of your clinical experience acceptable? I see both outpatients and inpatients and have close contact to them. Yeah, it's a great
Sounds
job.
pretty good to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And thanks. 'Cause
Yeah.
we get freaked out when we're in that tube. So we appreciate you.
Right.
I've had lots of
Yes.
MRIs, so thank
Me
you.
too. Me too. I always have like a million things. Like I pre-plan the things I want to think about while I'm in there, like to distract myself. Like sometimes I like quote whole sections of Jane Austen to myself. Nerd. And then they're like, "Oh, Rachel, we need you to hold your breath and talk to us." And I'm like, "No, but I'm doing a thing in here."
Oh,
Okay,
man.
sorry. Focus.
I fell asleep during one once.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
I fall asleep anywhere.
I
That's
thought
it.
you were going to
Good
say
night.
you
Oh,
fell
same
asleep
here.
during my story.
Oh my goodness. That would be
No,
really
no,
mean.
no.
Oh, well. Anyway, let's hear from Nicholas.
Nicholas asks, if you are lucky enough to receive multiple acceptances, how long do you have before you have to decide which schools you want to go to?
This is a great question.
the dreaded traffic rules.
Yeah.
So it's going to differ by school and application service, right, Scott?
Yep. Yep.
So talk about the traffic rules kind of broadly.
Well, I mean, this is a really great question, and obviously, Nicholas, this is an enviable position for any applicant to have multiple acceptances. And my recommendation is for an applicant who ends up with multiple acceptances is to accept all of them initially.
Yep.
But unless you know for sure that this school is one that you prefer the other set, another set here, and there's one in particular that you're not interested in or whatever. But I would say accept all of them initially. Now, the caveat to that is some medical schools are going to require a deposit, particularly DO schools are going to require a pretty hefty deposit in a few, in a fairly short time period where you're going to have to pay to reserve that spot. But what you want to do is, as quickly as possible, make decisions about between a set of schools and so if you've got 3 or 4 acceptances and it's between 2 of these schools, then release the other 2 and let them go, because other applicants can benefit from that. And then you can begin to decide between the 2 that you're really interested in what's going to be best for you. But go ahead and accept those so that you have time to make that decision and explore, potentially go visit the community that it's in, look at housing options. There's a lot of details that go into deciding where you're going to spend the next 4 years.
Yeah. The only caveat to that, I agree with that. The only caveat and huge issue that I see and huge complaint that I have about this process, specifically from the DO point of view, is that osteopathic schools absolutely rob students with their
absolutely.
deposit payment.
Yep.
So the AAMC has historically set deposits at a maximum of $100. I think there are some recent changes to that where schools can do some other funky things, but DO schools don't have any guidance from the Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine, and so DO deposits are typically in the range of $1,000 to $2,000.
Yep.
And so to say, like, accept all of them, that's a lot of money that you're giving up. And so you have to be a little bit more strategic. Unfortunately, when it comes to osteopathic schools, it's a huge problem that I've been screaming about for a while. And I'd love to try to do something a little bit more official and do some advocacy to the Association of Colleges of Osteopathic Medicine to have them formalize some parameters on that deposit, like the AAMC has done.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm currently a junior in college and I haven't gotten enough clinical hours to apply for medical school. Can I still apply for the 2023 class if I start my clinical as soon as January? So interesting question that brings up some myths, right? Of I haven't gotten enough clinical hours to apply for medical school. I'm not aware of any restrictions on to open a application for this cycle. You must have this many hours.
Right.
So
yeah, that's right. And you know, I think also the questioner here is not asking this outright, but my fear is here that this questioner says, I currently a junior in college haven't gotten enough clinical hours to apply for med school, which is the myth that we just mentioned. However, can I still apply for if I start my clinicals as soon as January? So my concern here is a little bit about it. It kind of seems like that this questioner is seeing it as a checkbox. If I check the box as soon as January, then I'm okay. Now I don't know if that's kind of your position, but what I'm wondering is why have you not gotten a lot more clinical hours by 3 years into your did you just decide recently that you want to do medicine or whatever? But I would definitely say this is a real important opportunity for you to visit with your pre-med advisor at your institution to really examine what is going on here. Obviously we can help through MAPT, through the MAP chat function in MAPT. We can give you more specific advice about it, having seen kind of what you've done in that is detailed in MAPT. But I would say if you start by January, on face value of the question, if you start by January, then absolutely you can apply. You can apply even if you don't start by January. There's nothing going to stop you, which is Ryan's point.
Yeah. It seems. Sorry. It just seems like they're holding hard and fast to this timeline of applying by their third year of college.
Right.
And we always get, I would say every couple of weeks, I get someone asking me like, how can I apply to be on Am I Ready? When are you guys starting Am I Ready? We'll be doing Am I Ready season 2 pretty soon, so stay tuned for that. And for those of you that have watched any, it's all on map.tv. There's a playlist there. You will see that when Scott asks students to talk through activities, he only spends about a second looking at the hours and dates and then spends a lot of time saying, tell me about those experiences. So it's the quality here. It's the meaning that matters.
That was going to be my next statement was it's not that you start in January. It's how much impact will that job or experience have on you by the time you need to write your personal statement and your secondaries and experience descriptions and all of that stuff to tell the story. Now, obviously, COVID, we understand COVID is a big factor in people not having a lot of hours, and medical schools are aware of that. So just think about that as well. Josh asks, how do med schools view W's? I was trigger happy early in my undergrad and got 5 in my first 3 years, but I haven't gotten any in the past 2 years and maintained a high GPA with a good course load. Not the first person to get a little too eager.
No.
I can do it all.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that you've gone, a couple of years now without any W's, that's a good sign. You may have to explain to an admissions committee in your application at some point, in a secondary application, for example, kind of why the W's are there, why there's so many of them. But generally, I don't think that you're going to find this is going to be something that's going to be a huge red flag in your application. It might be a minor red flag that you'll have to explain a little bit, but I would say it's not something that I would worry too much about.
Yeah. Yeah, you figure 5 W's in 3 years, roughly 6 semesters. So a W a semester doesn't look great, but probably not going to hinder you in the big picture.
Unless they were all for the same class. I was just thinking.
Oh, yeah. If somebody had some major mental block on OChem 2 and just kept dropping it.
Yeah. Yep. And we've talked about that before, the pattern. Are you dropping Physics 1, have a withdrawal in Physics 1, running over to the community college to take Physics 1, getting a withdrawal in OChem 1, running over to the community college to take OChem 1. So obviously that pattern is different than just having some W's because you took too many courses.
Right.
Do pre-med courses, quote, expire? By the time I apply, some of my courses will be 4 to 5 years old. No.
Pretty typical.
Yep.
Yeah, if you took, general chemistry as a freshman, then it's going to be 3, 4, 5 years old.
4, 5, yeah. Took a gap year in there, 4 years old. Yeah, definitely. Obviously, there are nuances, and some medical schools may have some, but big picture, no. Katrina asks, when asked in secondaries, what will you be doing over the next year? Should you include non-medical school oriented activities and plans?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. The very common mistake that I've seen students make with their official application is not including non-medical stuff on their application. And they're painting this picture that is incomplete, both from a timeline perspective and from a who you are as a person perspective.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yes. Include it all.
Yep. Definitely.
Unless the question specifically asks, what medical related activities will you be doing?
There was a great article in Apply magazine that the Texas service was publishing for a while by one of our advisors in Texas. I'll try to look it up here in the next couple of seconds. And but it's available online, and it's all, the article is all about this very question. What does this have to do with wanting to go into medicine or whatever? And the article really lines it out really nicely that this is that there's a lot of relevance to some of these activities, and so definitely include everything and really broaden who you are into the medical schools, because broadening yourself and showing them all aspects of who you are is very relevant. And even if you're the frontline supervisor at a grocery store in terms of the cashiers and stuff, this has relevance to your activities as a leader. And it's like, there it is right there. Yeah, woohoo!
The relevance of extracurricular activities, is that the one you're talking about?
That's exactly it.
That is
exactly it. Thank you.
Nice.
I worked with a student this summer with helping them with their activities, statements, and their plan for their year was to go back to Korea. They were Korean, and helping their grandmother because grandma was sick, and so they were going to be spending time with her. And they actually asked the same exact question. Is this okay for me to mention this? And I said, yeah, absolutely. You're going to be. That's what you're doing. It's you're going back to Korea to help your grandmother. That's your activity. It's not going to be viewed in any other way. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I found that article, so I'm posting it in the comments. So.
Oh, y'all are so wonderful.
All right, it's not a pretty link, but it's in the comments, so it's clickable.
Yeah, it's a great article. Yeah, it's a really great article.
And not specific to Texas. The stuff.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I'm just saying because every once in a while people are like, "Well, they said that about Texas." I'm like, "Yeah, they're not that different."
I love the picture, but that has nothing to do with being a doctor with soccer, because I have that specific example of a student who I met at a speaking opportunity, and she asked that specific question. She's like, "I'm a soccer coach. Soccer is my life. Soccer is life." From Ted Lasso, and she was told by her advisor to stop doing it because that has nothing to do with medicine and to leave it off of her application. And I said, "Absolutely not. Like, that is who you are. That's a part of who you are. The intangibles that I can assume from you putting on your application that you coach soccer for whatever age group is organizational skills and leadership skills and communication skills, all of these things that I can assume based on that experience, this interest that you have. Keep doing it. Be who you are, and don't listen to people, whether they're mentors, advisors, family members, who tell you that you have to be a specific person on paper and in your interview. That's not what medical schools want. And she is happily at a Texas medical school now, actually.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, totally right. That's so disappointing to hear that that's the advice she got from her advisor. It's so wrong. Yeah.
All right.
How important are research hours in comparison to clinical hours? I have about 150 research and 800 clinical up to this point. I work in the emergency department and love my job. Do I need more research than this? Back to the checklist mentality.
Yeah, right.
Maybe I don't even think so, but maybe for like an MD PhD type program, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
But even then, they say we teach you how to research.
Yeah, exactly. So don't worry about it.
The typical MD PhD student is like thousands of hours of research, right? That's a bulk of their stuff.
All right. Should we? It's 1:53. Maybe time for one more.
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to find a good one here. Sorry, since I laughed.
This is a good fear, right? Patrick asks, "Are robots going to take over medicine and leave us without a job?" No.
I should hope not.
No, and there's one specific reason, because there are people on the other side of the doctor, and people are going to want to be treated by people, not robots.
Right.
Now, I think technology will be a huge adjunct, an even bigger one in the future, but there will always be physicians kind of running the machines, hopefully.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, if anything, I feel like that's the way the workforce is evolving, is more and more. It used to be about, and not just in medicine, but, technical skills, right? I mean, we see this all the time where parents are confused. They're like, well, if I'd had that GPA and MCAT, I would have gotten in, right? Because it used to be that med schools accepted people almost solely on stats, right? Somebody asked a little while ago, what are the 3 attributes? And none of us said good at school. Like they're looking for empathy, and robots can do a lot of things, but they can't read they can't really read facial expressions. They can't read nuance. They don't have empathy.
Right.
Unless you have a Baymax. Does anyone know who Baymax is?
Oh, I love Big Hero 6.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite movies.
I love Big Hero 6. It's a phenomenal movie.
I'd be happy with Baymax.
Yes.
Great movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out. Big Hero.
Boy, don't I feel like an idiot. I've never even heard of that.
Oh, it's so cute. It's a really good movie.
Such a good movie.
It's really good.
Check it out.
Although,
Big
kind
Hero
of
6.
dark. Just
Yeah.
say, like we're all going, oh, but It's
Yeah,
not
well-
exactly feel good.
Yeah.
Like it's like a long walk in the dark before you get to
Mhm.
the light, sort
And-
of at the end. So I'm
and
just
parts
warning
are-
people.
Generally terrifying too, but
Yeah, like don't go in thinking it's going to be
a feel good movie.
all sweetness. Although I guess that's also true with Pixar, right? Like what breaks your heart more than the
Right.
first 10 minutes of any Pixar movie?
Thanks, Up.
Yeah.
Right.
But anyway,
All right. So reminder, map.com, there's a free level forever, but if you want to see the full suite of tools available in the paid level, then use code 30 days free.
Yep.
And that'll get you access to all the tools included in Mapped. And then we are going to do a giveaway for people in the comments. We already did one today. We'll do one more. So type in those questions even after this is over. And let's handle Kate's question here.
Yeah, Kate just had a good question. I thought is good to plug both the Premed Hangout, which has 17,000+ students in it, so that'd be a good place to go. And if you are a Mapped member, you also get access to a private Mapped Facebook group where you can potentially find an MCAT partner as well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the features in the future potentially for Mapped is more of a community feature where students who are applying to medical school kind of in the same timeline, taking the MCAT around the same timeline, we can have that ability to get people together because community is such a foundational part of this process.
Yep.
collaboration.
Yep.
Not competition. That's right.
All right.
All right, everyone. Have a wonderful week. We will see
Yep.
you next week on Ask the Dean. As always, I am live on Instagram Friday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern as well. Just doing a solo thing on Instagram. So come find me there. Yeah, keep coming back, asking great questions.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.